We are always willing to do a plus delta with everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Christina and Eric. That was a great presentation. I really like that visual board there where you guys went from 2 to 3 days down to under 4 hours. And what was really cool about that one was that it went through an iterative process, and it started to, it didn't actually solve, it solved a couple problems, but it created more, and it forced your team to keep going after it, right? And I've said this before, is that, you know, we don't want to achieve a perfect state. It's not the destination, it's the journey. And so what we want to do is we want to perfect our state. And so it's, you know, perfect is really just an adjective, not a destination. And I'm pretty sure that if we go back there 1 week from now, 1 month from now, they're going to keep having new changes to that board as they address different issues that are coming up and variations that are occurring. So it's really, really cool. So on that note, I will say this, guys. They have asked for your help on a couple of things. So I would say at this point, I'm going to moderate the chat. If you wanted to speak, if you could hold your hand up, and you could unmute, or we can just do, you know, Canadian Thanksgiving dinner, and you just, you know, start to talk. But in particular, what we're looking for is they're wondering if you could give some help into some tips and tricks for how to handle the whole supply chain issue that everyone seems to be suffering from. And the other thing that they had too is they had one visual board where, you know, trying to get people to gamify a little bit. What are some things that maybe you've done to gamify your visual boards to get that engagement with your team, so people aren't just walking by stuff and it's just white noise? Or if you had general comments or feedback for Christina and Eric that you would like to share, now would be a good time. I'll leave the board open here, and let's see what comes up. I'll go for Sherry.
How are you? Good. So if I may suggest, right now currently working at a painting company, a very small painting commercial, doing commercial painting and residential. The thing is that with supply chain, we've also ran into some certain problems about getting the products actually ordered, because within the supply chain, like everything is coming from the States, and of course with everything being delayed, you know, we need to order actually some color drawdowns to actually give us a sample. But we want to be able to actually, like, if the customer gets the color drawdowns for them as a sample, and the GC and the PM or the architect confirms it, what we do as well is that when that was confirmed, we usually go ahead and email the our suppliers, whoever that we go into, and say, here are the estimates of how much type or how much gallons of paint that we need for certain ceilings and walls, or certain doors and frames, that kind of stuff. So I think the communication of making sure that you are in touch with your supplier to make sure that, you know, they save you the product or they save the materials that you need, I think is a good idea. You know, as a suggestion, that's just for me to, you know, to consider for you guys, that you got to make sure that you have that communication with your suppliers to make sure that the material is certainly available. So to actually go ahead and make sure that to see if they can save that, and if they need a PO, if you guys need to purchase a PO, for sure that it's confirmed that these are the materials that you're needed for these certain projects to be built, then, you know, apply a PO. And if there's something that was wrong and some adjustments need to be made, that can be certainly, you know, revised and rectified. So that's just my suggestion. Does that help?
Awesome. Thank you very much for sharing, Sherry.
No, you're welcome.
Vaughn put in the chat there that about the visual boards, it didn't really create more problems. It actually revealed the problems that are already existing. So that was really insightful. Thank you for sharing that. And I think he also has his hand up. So go ahead, Vaughn. You had a question that you'd like to ask for the team?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. And I'm just thinking about the gamification of the board. Can you tell us a little bit more about the board and what its purpose is?
So this is all product that was completed by the shop. So it was a custom item. It's a hood fan, or it's a, a custom pantry with a bunch of fancy stuff inside. So basically, it's not product that came with the kitchen when it came from the factory. It's stuff that we produce in-house. But it still has to get married up with the product that's sitting in the warehouse so that when it gets shipped complete. So that's what the blue ones are. And that's really what the problem is right now. All the other ones, like a Rush, that was something that, is probably just something that needed to be fixed and it needs to go out in the field right now. Deliveries is sometimes, for service, they just needed something made up quickly and it doesn't fit in their van. And then supply only is like customer pickup stuff. So sometimes a customer will come in and buy something, 2 lengths of kick that they want to replace in their kitchen because it's broken or scratched or something. So we'll just sell them 2 pieces of kick and they come and pick it up. We don't order that from somewhere because we can make it in-house really easy. So that's kind of what's on the board there. But the blue ones are what our problem is right now. So the blue ones should go get put with the kitchen once they're produced so that when the kitchen ships, everything ships complete. Sometimes these things take 3-4 weeks to make. So they try and get them out of the way as soon as they can. It could be a giant curved hood fan, so we're trying to incentivize our warehouse people to actually take this product and put it away if it's blue. So
put it away, put it with the other parts and pieces.
Right.
So I'm just thinking maybe an idea is as to, show that order and show what percentage complete that order is. So they can see, and I don't know if it ends up being an electronic board where you're seeing, the top orders, or maybe the top orders are the ones that are closest to delivery time, or the top orders are most complete to 100%. But I think that's one way, is to look at the percentage complete.
Yeah, so everything on this board is 100% completed. We're just waiting for it to be booked to leave. So by staging it here, the shop is saying we're done with this. And the warehouse is supposed to take this and go put it with the pallets. They just don't put it away because they're like, well, I'm probably going to pull that next week. So I'm just going to let it sit there and I'll just pull it with the pallets when I pull everything. But as you can see, the stuff is piling up there. So it's a little bit overproduction on one side, but it could get booked to go out next week and it takes 3 weeks to build. So they need to build it as soon as they can so that we have that time and it's just ready to go. But so it's kind of a balancing act for us, trying to figure out the timing, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, it sounds to me you definitely want to look at the booking process as well and see how you can connect that booking process with whatever you're asking your people to do in the warehouse.
Yeah, sometimes we bring that product in and the customer had a delay. The framer didn't show up, or they're having supply chain issues too. So the build is delayed. And we have a very small window of time between, the drywall getting done and then the finishers. So because we're kind of at the end of the build process, it's hard to predict with enough time to figure out. Usually our builders are calling us 2 weeks in advance to book something. But lately they're getting tighter and tighter in their schedules. So we see a lot of fluctuations.
Oh, sorry, Christina. I like that percentage thing because
yeah,
Darcy probably we probably deliver 10 kits a day, and Darcy probably pulls 5 or 6 that are not 100% complete. Like you mentioned, there's parts in here that he has to go fish out after. So yeah, maybe gamifying something where how many 100% kitchens can Darcy pull could be a way that incentivizes the team. So I like that percentage idea. That's definitely not something I've thought about. But
I've seen some other companies do things with Hijunka boards where they're showing week bookings by week bookings, and you can see each customer, and perhaps it's might be color coded by customer, and then within there is all your documentation with checklists of here, these you open it up and you can tell right away exactly what you're waiting for. And I've seen other companies that'll show, put a camera on a board like you have there, so that their suppliers can see that board.
Oh, wow.
And then they also turned it around and said, okay, well, now we can see our suppliers' board, their stock of the things that we take and how that stock is going down, when it's going to be replenished. So it just connects those two as well.
Wow.
Do you have a
Great.
camera, or they take pictures and they share it on like a Google Google Photos and stuff like that, and they keep it live. Awesome. Really great ideas. Thank you, Vaughn, for sharing.
I got one more.
Oh, you got one more? Cool.
I saw there's a big pressure vessel manufacturer in the province, and they used to just have a God view map of the plant, and they would sell that space in the plant. So their customers would know they have this much space in the plant for this much time. So they need to get all their products, all their other parts and pieces together. They lose that time, it's done. They have to move everything out, someone else goes in. So it just creates that sense of urgency.
Awesome. And you had some comments on the board as well too, guys. Catherine also loved the higher level metric, like % complete for jobs. Shafraz also put into the chat that, you know, maybe one way we can incentivize is you can have prizes or gift cards or best idea of the month. That would also work. But we also have one other hand that's been up for a little bit, so I'm going to try and get to those. Karen, you're the next one up, if you don't mind. What was your question?
Oh, no, I just wanted to actually talk about this board as well. I was just wondering, and maybe it's totally clear to everybody in your shop, but what is the disadvantage of leaving them in place? Like, is it that there's no space right there, which I think you did allude to, Christina, or is it the visual clutter on this board, which I think also is problematic because there's too many blue things and you kind of lose the rest of them.
Yeah.
Or is it like even the time delay at when the order has to go out, then someone has to come and look for this piece that should have been with the rest of the order, and maybe like helping to identify with people like what inefficiency this is causing for the group, that they could understand better why it needs to be done at the time instead of just leaving it. Like if it means that when the order goes out, there's a whole bunch of time wasted where someone has to pull these out of a big pile of, you know, clutter, then that might be the way of sort of illustrating to people like this is why it's not great, because it's wasting so much time. Or maybe even there's errors, so the piece isn't going out when it should be going out. So illustrating sort of the downstream repercussions, because I don't know, like, for example, is the people who are deciding to leave them and not put them away, are they the same people that have to then go find them later when the order has to go out? Yeah, so even saying, look, this will make your own life easier if you deal with it sooner rather than later. Yeah, and maybe that's already completely obvious because you're just giving us a high level, but sort of helping to point out to them why their life would be easier if they dealt with it sooner might incentivize them to do it. So
like a help me help you, right?
Yeah, exactly, because, and even like you maybe have to do it gently, like, for example, we notice when orders are going out that you're really having to climb among cabinets to find these pieces that are hidden. How can we do this better? And then maybe they are like, oh, we could put them away when they're supposed to be put away. So I don't know. Gently lead them to the solution. So anyway, that's my thoughts. Thanks.
That's great.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, Christina.
No, that's okay. I was going to say, I have Eric on my team because he's the people person. So maybe you could go talk to Darcy about that, and then.
Well, it's funny. Darcy actually went to me. He's like, yeah, one thing I don't really like about this board is that there's so much stuff in it and it's hard to find stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but there is actually a solution where if you just put it away as it comes in, there's not going to be a lot of stuff in there all the time. So, I mentioned that, but I agree. I'll probably mention that again of making your life easier. I guess the other risk that we forgot to mention is if on the paperwork that there is a part in here and he miscounts cabinets before it goes for delivery, there's a legitimate chance that something stays in here while the whole kitchen goes out, and then that's an extra cost to deliver that, one piece that's already been finished. So that would be the other risk that wasn't mentioned that would really impact the business for sure. So, but yeah, hopefully there's a way to gamify where, you're going to have to grab these eventually, and doing it in a pinch when the delivery is coming and having to dig through multiple items that all look the same will be a bit of a struggle. So hopefully they learn that once it's cleaned and maintained, putting 1 or 2 or 3 items a day versus 25 in a day is going to be a lot easier. So, but yes, thank you very much for the suggestion. And
yeah, we do ask them weekly what their ideas are for this board, but lately they've just kind of stagnated, like, nope, it's as good as it's going to get right now. So we just need to push them a little bit more to
Yeah, I mean, I agree. There's too much visual clutter on that. I almost think that if there's no way that things are going to get put away, like, which I don't believe, but let's say there was no way to put those things away, I'd almost say have 2 different boards, one for the blue and one for everything else, because the blue is overwhelming and kind of distracts you from the original purpose of the board, which is to deal with the non-blue ones. So
absolutely, yeah.
This, and what I've learned from this as well is the blue is the stuff that's not really a rush. There's a chance that these aren't going out for multiple weeks, so it's also highlighting another problem of overproduction. We're building stuff a little bit ahead of time, which this board's showing. I mean, another complaint from a warehouse guy was, oh yeah, there's something that was put in here 3 weeks ago and it's still here, and that's highlighting another issue of, well, why did we build it 3 weeks before we needed it? So kind of like other problems we've had, it's highlighting other ones we had before and didn't see it. So so if we get anything out of the board, at least we've also learned that we're producing stuff quicker than we need to. So and still missing deadlines and other things. So we should probably take another look and try to limit how many blues are going in there from a manufacturing perspective as well.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to what Vaughn was saying before, is if we could link your booking and the warehouse activities, so you're not having as many misses. On that point as well too, Sarah also has her hand up, for quite a while. And Sarah, did you have a comment or a question or an idea that you'd like to share with the group?
All of the above. First off, I wanted to say awesome presentation. It's really clear you guys are doing a lot of lean stuff, which is super awesome. Couple of takeaways that I had from your presentation was one was eliminating paperwork with cross-training. I friggin' love that. I wish we could all do that more often, especially in that like QC phase. I feel like across all industries, it seems we often create another position thinking that like, an outside set of eyes is actually going to make our lives easier, when truthfully, even if it is a separate position and we have those second set of eyes, if they can make the fix while they're doing it, like freaking bonus, like that's a win. So I love that. Another thing that I really loved about your presentation was showing the autonomy that the people in the warehouse have. And like maybe that's kind of a bad analogy, but it gives me a vision of like Lord of the Flies or like Lost Boys, where like you guys all just get to like huddle together and figure out what you want to do, and then someday go to the leaders and say, hey, by the way, there's this one thing we can't fix or whatever. I love that. It's very like anarchistic. It's fantastic. So then talking about the supply chain issues that you guys are having and listening to other people's comments about it, the biggest thing that I'm thinking about right now is how this is kind of affecting literally everybody, especially in construction. If you need to get stuff, it's hard to get stuff, basically. But something Avel always tells us is to focus on the things that are in our control, not the things that are not, right? So with the supply chain, obviously you're going to be running into delays on all sorts of things. Obviously, we're all trying to do that just-in-time delivery. We're trying to get things exactly when we need them, install them exactly when we need to, but there are outside influences that are making that way more difficult, so that sucks. So a couple questions for you guys about, maybe finding some solutions. Is this affecting all of your material, or are there some things that you're able to get, or is it like mainly custom stuff that's, you know, super delayed? Another question is, how are you communicating to your suppliers what you're missing? Maybe there's something there. And how are you prioritizing the material that you need? Those are my questions for you guys.
Yeah, so the lead times from our supplier, they're pretty much at capacity with the orders we've given them. They just can't produce more. And then, of course, with the roads being out, that's compounding the issue. But so we've been doing pre-ordering stuff, like before we're even able to measure. So like the rough-ins aren't done and the framing's not totally complete. And we're almost ordering from blueprints right now, which causes problems a lot later because we'll have to, you know, tell them to modify the framing to fit the blueprints if they didn't build it to that spec, because otherwise the kitchen's not going to fit. But we've done that to try and but what else can we do, right? Like we can't get them fast enough. Yeah. So we're doing as many pre-orders for the builders we know are reliable for how they're building. And the other thing is we are talking to the plant weekly about what orders to prioritize. So we actually have our VP calling our customers every week. What stage is this build at? What stage is this build at? And for 700 kitchens a month, that's a pretty big feat. So, you know, they get the designer involved, say, can you call all these customers and find out when they actually want it? You know, because otherwise we can't prioritize these things. And, you know, sometimes we have to call the customers and say, we're going to be 2 weeks late. Like, what can we do to work around this? We'll just install it on the finished floor if we have to, because we can't delay your build anymore. But, you know, we'll bring blankets, we'll bring cardboard, we'll do the things that we need to do to get that stuff done for you.
Another question is, when you guys are experiencing delays on site, are you only talking to the GC about the impacts, or are you talking to the other trades as well? Because like you said, you're sandwiched between kind of drywall and finishing. Are there conversations about deliveries and install with those guys as well, or is it just high level?
They talk directly to the site superintendents. So they're in charge of the build start to finish, and they're in charge of all the subcontractors. So they should know what's going on.
The other subcontractors too?
Occasionally we'll talk to the framers, or we'll talk to the drywall guys just to see, you know, if they're having supply chain issues too. Like if we know X company is not getting their drywall in time, then we're like, the site super said it's going to be done next week, but I talked to that guy and he's not going to be done next week. So there is some of that going on.
Yeah, it's just making me think, like, with pole planning and stuff, I know it's kind of hard to do on like houses especially, but you know, getting that feedback from those external customers directly, you can maybe get some solutions from them that the general contractor or your client wouldn't maybe see.
For sure.
Just with that great feedback, right? So there's an idea as well.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like if you talk to the framers and say, look, we really need these rooms to be done before other rooms, is there any way they could be prioritized? Like maybe they don't know that is an important thing because, you know, 95% of the house doesn't have cabinetry in it, but this 5% does. And maybe they don't realize that it could be helpful to you guys to have certain parts done earlier so that the measures can happen. So, because we experience that. So I'm an architect, and so we experience sort of the other end of that, where to do with some finishes, all of a sudden there was supply chain issues, and we had to have a whole bunch of decisions made really quickly, which of course had to have the owner involvement in decisions. So it was very stressful for us. And we sort of said, why did no one bring this up to us 6 months ago? like we could have worked on this 6 months ago, but no one told us that this was going to be an issue. And all of a sudden, you know, with no notice, we were asked to suddenly take something which was, you know, like a 3-month process and squish it into a 1-month process. And we would have been happy to do it had we been told, because it wouldn't have actually been a big deal for us. It's just that we didn't know there was going to be this thing coming up. So it's possible that these other trades that you're working with just don't even know how it's impacting you guys. And
Absolutely.
you might get cooperation, you know, without having to make any sacrifices by anyone. So.
Well, maybe getting some creative solutions too, right? Like I said, that Lost Boy kind of thing that you've got going on in your warehouse could be on site as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great suggestions. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
I still feel
Thanks.
like that's a terrible analogy. I need a better comparison. Like, you're not Lost Boys.
We're just empowered, autonomous people.
There you go. Oh,
I'm
that's
just-
so much better.
I love how all
jump
the
in?
ideas are coming together, guys. Thank you so much for helping helping Jen. You know, one really cool thing is Chris put in the chat there is that this did uncover an opportunity for you to try and find a better way to get those updates from the builders. So you don't have like a key person on the phone literally 24/7 going through there could be a way that maybe we could pull that information out from them rather than, you know, we're going to push and react to it. So we're getting close to time. So there's some things that I want to try and get out of here before you guys take off. Our home is the Edmonton Construction Association, so I got to give them a shout out. You can go over there for a whole variety of different things, especially printing. You can get a lot of your printing done. Go see David down in the basement. He's got candy. He's quite bored over there. No one goes there as often as they used to. So go there, tell him Avel sent you. He'll be quite happy for that. We are going to be posting the videos for this recording on our YouTube page. That's also in the chat as well too. So if you wanted to see this video in about a couple days, I'll be putting it into two, one for the presentation and one for the Q&A format. But you can also see some of the other videos that we've taken for our prezes. There's some really cool stuff in there. And last but not least, our LinkedIn page is where we're going to see the majority of our updates. And so if you haven't already, follow our LinkedIn page, go there, and you'll see a lot of updates. We talk about when our next Lean coffees are going to be. We also, there's some really cool tidbits about lean construction, that type of deal. That's also there as well too. And our next Lean coffee is going to be December 17th. Yeah, December 17th. And we're going to try something different there. We're going to try and have it in person, and it won't be in the morning. It'll be kind of in the afternoon, and it might be lean beers. So stay tuned to figure out when that is going to take place and where it's going to be. It's going to be someplace that probably no one's ever been to before. It's going to be kind of like a hole in the wall type of place. But I can guarantee you that the booze would be good. The company would be okay. On that note, thank you so much, Christina and Eric, for sharing with us and presenting with us. And thank you to the community as well, too, for giving us some great feedback. Edmonton is known for banding together, and you guys just proved it, even at a micro level. But it just shows, you know, our community is strong. On that note, everyone stay safe, and we'll see you in 3 weeks. Ciao, everyone.
Thank you so much, guys.
Good work.